Hello artist, I heard you needed some help with your 1-point perspective drawings. Let's get to it. On our blank page, we're going to make one dot in the very center. Now, if you want to do a landscape, horizontal will be better. I'm going to do a cityscape first, so if you want to do a landscape, skip ahead in the video. Once we have our center point, we know that all lines lead to our vanishing point. So I'm going to draw in 2 lines for our road, starting at the very center and going out to the corner, bottom left and bottom right of our page. Nice. Now that we have those in, let's draw our sidewalk. The sidewalk is just 2 more lines extending, once again, from the vanishing point off a little bit above our other road line. Now that we have the line for our road and our sidewalks, let's add in the horizontal lines to our sidewalk. Now remember, like we talked about in class, if we have a sidewalk that we see from the top down, all of the spacings will be equal. But as we know, in perspective, things get smaller in the distance. And so, the spacings on the lines of my sidewalk are going to get smaller and smaller as we go further. As everything gets smaller, even the spacing between sidewalk blocks will get smaller. Now, these lines are going to need to be horizontal. Horizontal means they're going to be straight across, parallel with the top and bottom of our page. So, not like this, but horizontal like this. And then I'm going to add my sidewalk blocks in, just like that, with the spacing getting smaller and smaller on each side. Started on my left here, and I'll move to my right. Horizontal lines with each spacing getting smaller and smaller. As we go along. Great, we've got our road and our sidewalk. Let's add in our first building. To add in a building, we need a vertical line that starts at our road line. Once we have our first vertical line, we can use a straight edge or a ruler to give us a guideline for the roof of that building. Now we know all lines need to lead to the vanishing point. So if I use a pencil here, I can see that my vanishing point is right here at the center, and so my roof line has to follow that line just like that until I want my building to stop. Now, once I have decided that my building is wide enough, I draw another vertical line straight down until it touches that sidewalk once again. Once we have the front of the building drawn, we're going to need to draw the side, and that's simple. 2 horizontal lines, 1 and 2. Let's draw another vertical line. We have to see, okay, it's going to go towards my vanishing point. Now, my vanishing point here, it's a little high if I try and draw it that way. So maybe I made this line too tall. I'm going to use my guideline, and I see, okay, right about there would be a good height for a building. So that is going to be my building height. I'm going to erase anything that I did that was too tall. Now, I'm going to add in my vertical line, and then my horizontal. Great. One more horizontal at the bottom here, and now I've got a couple buildings in here. Let's add some windows to those buildings. To add windows to our buildings, we're going to need to draw some lines, once again, starting at the vanishing point and going across these buildings. So, if I use my pencil as a guideline, I can see where I want to place my windows. Now these windows are going to change the angle based on how they're coming from the vanishing point. So use a ruler, and you'll be able to see that going to and from the vanishing point, you can get great details on your windows. Now, what if I want some trees on my left-hand side of the building? If I want some trees on my left-hand side of the building, I'm going to draw very lightly a reference line for how tall these are going to be. I can erase this line later, so I'm going to keep it nice and light. Then I'll draw my first tree in. I'll give a base to my tree, and then I've got a nice little tree form right over here. If I want to draw my second tree in, once again, I'm going to draw this one a little smaller, because as we talked about, things get smaller as they go off into the distance and perspective. And then this one is also going to touch the top of that line. The same thing goes true for our next tree. And as we continue off in the distance, our trees will get smaller and smaller, but each one is going to touch that top line we made. Great. We're done with that. Let's go ahead and erase it. Erase that line. That was our guide. And great. We've now got some buildings and some trees. Continuing on, let's add our horizon line and a nice sunset. So a horizon line is just a straight horizontal line that starts at our vanishing point. So going over from our vanishing point, straight horizontal, and then it's going to come this way too, to the left as well. And just don't go overlapping anything you've already done, because the horizon is behind all that. So we can go behind all of our trees, just like that. Great, we've got a great horizon line. Now let's add a sunset. Beautiful. You can add any more details that you would like. If you want to bring in some birds, some clouds, you can do any of that. Just keep in mind the different things that we've already learned. As something is closer, it's larger, and as something is farther away, it gets smaller. Anything you'd like to add, whether it's a car, another building, you can feel free to add. I'm going to stop there, and then I'm going to show you our landscape drawing. Let's get into the landscape. For our landscape drawing, you're going to want to have the paper horizontal. Okay, the first step to make a landscape drawing is just to snap. Not maybe that easy. Let's try it from the start. All right, let's try it for real. So, the first thing is going to be to establish our vanishing point. Now, our vanishing point, we put in the middle before. This time, we're going to put it off towards the side a little bit. Here's our vanishing point. So get your page set up just like this. Now, everything we now know is going to focus towards our vanishing point. The first thing we're going to do, let's draw a river. So, we know we're going to need a line like this coming from the vanishing point. This is the line the river is going to follow loosely. I'm going to draw a couple curves in here. My river is kind of winding. Now we know whatever we did for one side, we can now do for the other. I'm going to erase my guideline because I now have my curvy guideline in there. And now I'm just going to follow that same path a little bit wider. Nice. I've got a nice river in there. Let's draw in now our trees. So for our trees, I'm going to draw, once again, a guideline, starting at our vanishing point and coming up towards the top of the page. My iPad died mid-filming. I'm going to erase this and I am going to show you all again. It hurts. All right, attempt number 2. Let's try that one more time. Real quick, vanishing point, wavy river. You don't have to restart. I'm restarting here. Great. I don't like that line. Better. Now, we're going to add in some little curves and waves rushing in our water. Awesome. Now that we've done that, let's add in the line for our trees. So, we know this is our vanishing point. This is a rough estimate of the line for our trees. I'm going to add in some pine trees. To make some pine trees, all we need to do is start with the base and then draw some sketchy lines down from the top. Some rough, scratchy lines like this. And boom, pine tree. Let's draw another one. Right here at the base of the water. Base of the tree, starting at the top, scratchy lines down. Another pine tree, done. Nice. One more over here. Let's keep adding in our pine trees until we've filled up this area. And as they get off into the distance, they're just going to get smaller and smaller. Great. Now that we've got our trees in there, we can erase that guideline. And let's put a fence up. So for our fence, we're going to start here at our vanishing point again and draw a line all the way down here towards the end of our river. Don't worry if it overlaps anything. That's okay. We're going to do the same thing now for the bottom of the fence, starting at the vanishing point. And it's going to come down like this. Now, we're going to draw some vertical lines in for the slats of our fence. Now, these lines, just like our sidewalk, aren't going to be evenly spaced, but rather, as they get off into the distance, they're going to get closer and closer spaced because everything gets smaller, even the spacing between the fence posts. So, we don't even need to erase anything in here because you're going to see it through the fence posts, but we're just going to start with our fence lines like this. Vertical lines. And then, as I mentioned, as we get further off into the distance, those lines are going to get closer and closer together. We can clean that up. Nice. We now have a fence in our drawing. Let's add in some mountains. To add in some mountains, all we need to do, once again, is going to be first establish our horizon line, which is at the horizontal, at the vanishing point, a horizontal line. Don't go in front of your trees, go behind them. We've got our horizon line. Now, let's draw in some guidelines for our mountains. Awesome. Oops. Now that we've got some guidelines for our mountains, we can just draw some shapes like this, starting at the vanishing point, coming down, erase that guideline that we no longer need. All you need to do to make the mountains is start at your top point, come down some, go back up to it. Come down some, go back up to it. And you can vary it however you'd like. Awesome. This is looking great. We can erase now once again that guideline we no longer need. It's done its job. Now we have some mountains. If you want to add any detail to the mountains, you can just draw some lines at the top of them to indicate some different types of shading or peaks on the mountains. Great. Let's see, what else do we want to add in? If you want to add in some birds, a bird, for reference, is just like a squished M. So if you have an M and you squished it, just like that. Birds are just squished M's. We could also add in some animals if we wanted over here. Perhaps we have some sheep that are grazing in our little pasture over here. So it would start small, right, off in the distance. Maybe a bigger sheep over here. It's 4 legs and head. And then really close, maybe. It's the same size sheep, but it would just look bigger as it's nice and close now. Awesome. Now, let's add in a little grass. That'll be nice and big right here. Nice big grass right up front. Medium-sized small grass in the back. And teeny tiny little specks of grass in the back. Great. We've got a great drawing here now. If you want to add anything else to this, you can. You can add your own sunset. You can add a moon. You can add some nice clouds. Add whatever you want to personalize your drawing. Just remember our rules of perspective. Everything is going to go towards a vanishing point if it's getting smaller, and as it gets closer towards our field of view, it's getting bigger. Great job. I'll see you in class.